first?
The Predator.
Okay.
Which is a sequel come reboot of the 80s sci-fi romp, which originally had Arnie against this sort of dreadlocked alien predator, and which spawned a series of increasingly limp spin-offs and sequels, including the abominable Alien versus Predator film. So the first film was directed by John McTiernan, who made Die Hard. This is directed by Shane Black, who made Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Nice Guys, and had a supporting role in the original, and written by Shane Black and Fred Decker. Yes, that's right. It is a Black and Decker film.
Hey!
So the story is alien ship crashes on Earth. This guy who is a special ops sort of former army officer pulls a helmet out of the crashed ship and decides that in order to get it somewhere safe, he puts it in a box and posts it home to the home from which he is estranged, where he has a son and a partner from whom he is, from whom he is estranged. And of course, the minute it arrives home, it is unwrapped by his son, Jacob Tremblay, who is bullied at school and has autism, but is super smart enough to figure out that this helmet is something quite extraordinary. Promptly puts it on, wears it at a Halloween thing. There's a scene which is very reminiscent of that scene in E.T., in which the kids walk around, wearing masks, and they manage to get E.T. out of the house by pretending that he's in a Halloween suit. In fact, there was an interview with the director in which he said that what he was trying to do was to bring back the wonder of Close Encounters. Anyway, meanwhile, Dad becomes part of a renegade team who set out to hunt down the alien ship, which is the other alien ship, which has arrived on Earth looking for the first alien ship and the remnants of the crashed ship. Following this, here's a clip.
Chance for you to survive. Go, I got this.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Contact! Alien! Contact! Alien! Contact! Come on. Come on, come on.
Was shooting all the birds. There was birdsong in there and gunfire.
There is nothing that Simon likes more than to take out the cussing.
And it's what his job is,
and the effing and the jeffing in those trailers. So anyway, so you get the general idea. So here's the thing: the thing that Shane Black is famous for is the kind of very, very smart talking, wisecracking.
Lip smacking,
thirst quenching, ace-tating, motivating, cool fizzing, whatever that drink was. And you do get a degree of that in this film, including a riff about why the predator isn't a predator. He isn't actually a predator. He's something else.
What, misunderstood?
No, but it's the predator isn't the right word. It's a hunter. Or anyway, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is that the quips don't land. And the relationships between the mismatched group who are searching for the predator don't land. And there's a long-running gag about Tourette's, which never feels like it makes any sense or is comfortable or why is that gag happening? And then there's a gag about a sort of bromance between two characters, which was so poorly drawn that I didn't realise that it was happening until about halfway through the film. So it's a really odd thing that on the one hand you get these sort of the things that you would expect from Shane Black, but on the other hand they're not working. They're not firing properly. They're not giving you any of the spark. There are some interesting performances. I mean, I think Olivia Munn is terrific as the sharp science teacher come biologist who is actually the brains of this mismatch thing that she gets dragged into. But the relationship between her character and the renegades never gels. The characters don't click, and the plot doesn't make any sense. So you're watching this and thinking, this is all over the place. I mean, this is tonally all over the place. The gags aren't landing. The action sequences are turgid. The characters don't add up. There's a weird mix between the bits that are violent and the bits that are throwaway. Then we've got the Jacob Tremblay character, which seems to suggest that the movie is trying to play younger, and the director is referring to Close Encounters, and yet, it's not that kind of a movie at all. So then it's unsurprising first to learn that after they had the original test screenings, they apparently went back and reshot the end. Although the whole thing looks like it's kind of messily put together with different bits. Then, of course, there was this scandal which you might know about, that they had to cut a scene in which it turned out that one of the people that they had cast was a registered sex offender, and the filmmaker knew about it, and Olivia Munn spoke out about it, and Shane Black initially... Los Angeles Times, he said to Los Angeles Times, I personally chose to help a friend. I can understand others might disapprove as his conviction was on a sensitive charge and not to be taken lightly. Then subsequently, completely reneged, the scene was taken out. He said, I made an error of judgment. This was reported in Variety. That is irresponsible. I was the captain of that ship. It's my job to make sure these things don't happen, and I failed. I take full responsibility, and I'm very deeply sorry, although that there's been a recent interview with Olivia Munn saying, I didn't get that apology. So the whole thing has a very tawdry and rather messy production history. And when you look at the film itself, you think, okay, well, maybe it's because maybe some of this explains the incoherence of it. I think the honest truth of it is it's just badly put together. I made that joke before about, I'm not the first person. A lot of people have made these jokes about Black and Decker, but the end result does look like something that some, DIY enthusiast has bolted together on a table out in the garage. I know, let's get a bit of that. So let's get a bit of that stuff and then a bit of that film there, and we'll bolt those two bits together, and then we'll solder on a little bit of that other thing that I'm referring to. Then we'll have a little bit of 80s nostalgia, just screw that into that bit there, and then I'll just and you end up with something which looks like it was put together by somebody who really ought to be... the really strange thing about it is, I found it very, very disappointing, often kind of uncomfortably badly done. Then when you sort of learn more about the backstory, you think, oh, well, to some extent that makes sense. But I was largely baffled by it. I just largely sat there thinking, how is it that the whole thing is quite so messy, quite so shambolic, quite so pinballing between one kind of movie and another kind of movie, and never landing on what sort of movie to be. And I'm afraid to say, almost the worst thing about it was very boring. And some of the Predator movies are interesting, some of them less so. I have to confess, I was never a huge Predator fan. I know many people really revere the original. I wasn't one of them. It was okay. But I just thought it was shoddy and ill-judged. And despite the fact that there are some good performances and some good plays, the whole thing literally looks like it's been bolted together out of bits of other things and changed around, and it's a shambles.